How can I increase my children's interest in science? This is one of the most common questions being asked of the famous astronomer, Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, and it baffles him more than any of the complex topics he strives to solve in his line of work. In this video, we'll explore a few ways suggested that will help you get your kids to love science, so make sure you stick with me until the end. Now, without any further delay, let's get into the video. According to Neil deGrasse Tyson, all children are born scientists. Neil deGrasse Tyson explained at a conference at the Space Technology Hall of Fame in Colorado Springs, Colorado, United States, that all children are born scientists. They're always looking under rocks and picking petals off flowers. This is how exploration works. It's about taking things apart even if you don't know how to put them back together. He further explained that for him, an adult scientist is a child who never grew up, which means that he never lost his curiosity or his capacity for wonder. This can happen in a house. A child opens the refrigerator, takes out an egg, and starts playing with it. The first thing a parent will do is yell, "Stop playing with that egg, it might break. Put it back in the fridge." But what they don't realize is that this is an experiment in itself. Let the child find out for himself if the egg breaks against the ground. It can also be a physics experiment teaching the child about the law of gravity. deGrasse Tyson also said that while you shouldn't let kids destroy the house in their eagerness to learn, let them explore the world on their own. A Harvard president once said, "If you think education is expensive, you should look at the cost of ignorance." And that's a problem. We don't have enough parents who know how to value the inquisitive nature of their children because they prefer to maintain strict order within the house, he added. He goes on to say that science is not so much about what you know as it is about how you learn. That journey takes a lot of curiosity, which is something abundant in all kids, but only a few keep it as adults. And there are not enough parents who understand or know how to value the fact that their kids are curious. Even if a child's parents encourage the child's natural interest in science, there are things outside of the child's control that can make it hard to stay interested in science, technology, engineering, and math. STEM, an acronym for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, ambitions are still held back by forces in society, says Tyson. Some are quiet and others are loud. When he was in graduate school, the police stopped him twice when he went into the physics building, but they never did when he went into the gym. You can imagine. In addition to the differences between people of different races, women only make up 28% of the STEM workforce. Physics and engineering have the lowest number of women in these fields. The fact that culture and society have a bias about who you are and what you should be when you grow up is still a burden for anyone whose goals don't match the status quo. Now, let's talk about 5 more things parents can do to help their kids love STEM for life. So let's get to it. Firstly, if you want your kids to love science more, don't always give them an answer. According to Neil deGrasse Tyson, memorizing the right answer to a question is not as important as having the brain wiring that values the path to the right answer. Even if you know the answer, when your child asks you a question, you should say, "Let's find out the answer together." Secondly, how often do you visit your local science center with your kid? Neil deGrasse Tyson once said that education research has shown that we remember field trips from our childhood even as adults. So, it is important that you take as many trips to museums with your child as your schedule will allow, because this kind of exposure can make a child want to do anything. What next? Encourage your kids to make geeky friends. Weird, right? Well, let me explain. According to Neil deGrasse Tyson, in some groups of friends, being a nerd might not be cool. Social pressures can be strong, but there's emotional strength in numbers, and there's also shared enlightenment. Next, to help your kids love science more, never forget how powerful pop culture can be. In the age of cool scientists of both sexes, more kids are staying interested in science fields through middle school. Therefore, we should never underestimate the power of pop culture, like TV shows like CSI and all of its versions, to make a student want to work hard. And finally, don't think it's too late to make your kids love science more. Tyson didn't study planets when he was in preschool. When he was 9 years old, his family took him to the Hayden Planetarium, where he now works as a director. This is where he first became interested in the universe. He didn't get his first telescope until he was 12. When his parents saw that he was interested, they helped him grow it. In other news, children who live near forests have better nutrition, says a study. Spending time in nature is already known as a great enhancer of mental and emotional health. Now, a new study has concluded that children who live near forests are in a better state of nutrition. Let's discuss the news in detail. A scientific study conducted in 27 developing countries found that children tend to have more diverse diets and better nutrition when they live near forests. The paper, published in Science Advances, provides evidence that forest conservation can be an important tool to promote better nutrition in developing countries rather than cutting down forests for more farmland. Study lead author Renivo Risalafasan, a scientist at the University of Vermont, UVM, said in a press release that forests are not only correlated with improvements in people's diets, but actually cause these improvements. The authors wrote in the research abstract that these children have access to a variety of forest food products, including species of animals, plants, and fungi, which can supply essential micronutrients that contribute significantly to nutrition. According to Brenda Fisher, professor in the UVM Environmental Program at the Rubenstein School of Environment and Natural Resources and co-author of the paper, dietary diversity is a good indicator that micronutrient intake exceeds enough thanks to forests. For the study, the researchers collected dietary information for children under 5 years of age from the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, Diet Information Database from 2000 to 2013. The team then looked at the diets of children in 43,000 households in Nepal, Bangladesh, Colombia, the Philippines, Caribbean islands, South America, Sub-Saharan Africa, and Eastern Europe, which were near and far from forests. They found that increased exposure to forest resulted in children having 25% more dietary diversity compared to no exposure. These children also eat more foods rich in vitamin A and iron, at least 11 and 16% more respectively. They found that the positive effect of forests is greatest for poor communities, but communities need at least access to roads, markets, and education to get the most out of their forests. So what's next? Let's talk about the education that our kids deserve. You know, childhood is the phase of life in which education must be above all else. Children's learning during these early years is the main trigger for the person they will become, a responsibility that every parent must safeguard from the child's birth. Fortunately, the current market has various resources with which to enhance their teaching and guarantee intellectual development according to their needs, something in which children's stories and school material have a lot to say. A child's imagination knows no end, a time when everything is possible and they dream of reaching the stars, gradually discovering the world in which they were born. It is your task as parents to enhance this inherent aspect of childhood and awaken their interest in reality, an essential requirement in their training for which these stories for children are a clear ally. Even though the family environment is going to be one of the main triggers for their ethical and academic training, you cannot talk about education without mentioning their time at school. Teaching centers are the most responsible for transmitting all the knowledge that will allow them to develop their future, and from home, you have to guarantee their well-being in the process, which is why buying quality school supplies is essential. The first thing you have to keep in mind is that children require self-confidence. Each of the materials that they take to school is going to be the subject of debate in class, so you have to ensure that these products meet the corresponding standards. So that concludes today's video. If you found the video helpful, give us a thumbs up and don't forget to share the video with your friends and family. Also, do let me know in the comments section what you've been doing wrong in making your kids love science and how you plan on correcting it using the tips shared in this video. Thanks for watching and see you next time.